It starts with silence, a man, alone in his perfect home, a doting father, a loyal husband. A quiet life, but then knock knock. That's the trigger, the beginning of the end. Evan Weber, played by Keanu Reeves, isn't expecting visitors, especially not to strangers, soaked from the rain, seductive, smiling. And dangerous. At first glance, you might think this is a classic home invasion film. But this is something darker. Knock Knock isn't about breaking into a house. It's about breaking into a mind. The perfect life, then chaos. Evan is a good man, or at least he thinks he is. A devoted father, an architect, a man who supports his wife's art career, who plays with his kids, who stays home while the family goes on a weekend trip. He's the guy you trust, which makes what happens next so much more disturbing. When temptation comes to the door, Genesis and Bale, played by Ana de Armas and Lorenza Izzo, arrive at Evan's doorstep like something out of a dream, or maybe a nightmare in disguise. They're cold, wet, flirty. They're lost, or so they say. And Evan, like any polite man, lets them in. Just for a moment, just to help, but just a moment is all it takes. From the second they step inside, the house is no longer his. He just doesn't know it yet. Seduction as a weapon. What follows isn't a flirtation, it's a psychological attack. They laugh, they flirt, they test him. And Evan tries to resist. At first, he really does. He talks about his wife. His kids, he says no, but they keep pushing. And eventually, he says yes. It's not just a seduction, it's a trap. Consequences. The morning after should be filled with guilt, right? But there's no time. Because Genesis and Bale, they're still there. And now they're not sweet, they're not lost, they're cruel. They're mocking, they're in control. What follows is a slow, brutal dismantling of Evan's life. Every protest he makes, every attempt to throw them out, just makes things worse. They accuse him, they threaten him, they film him. They destroy his home, and his mind, roles reversed. This is the twist that Knock Knock brings. Evan isn't the hero here. Not anymore. He's the man who cheated. He's the man who opened the door, and now he has to face the consequences. But are those consequences just, or are they a sadistic game? That's the question Knock Knock wants you to ask. Power, control, and morality. Genesis and Bale aren't just villains. They're forces of chaos, avatars of punishment. They play with morality like it's a toy. They say they're teaching him a lesson, that cheating men deserve pain. But then they go further. They humiliate him. They tie him up. They threaten his family, his career, his sanity. Is this justice? Or is it just evil wrapped in the language of revenge? The Mask of Innocence, Ana de Armas' performance is especially chilling. Her innocent face, her soft voice, they contrast violently with the horrors she unleashes, and that's what makes it terrifying. She looks harmless, but every word drips with control. It's the psychology of manipulation turned into art. Trapped in his own home, the house, once a symbol of safety, becomes a prison. No locks can stop them, no reasoning can reach them. Everything Evan thought he controlled is gone. And Keanu Reeves' performance, it's raw, vulnerable. He's not a cool action hero here. He's a man unraveling. And the audience is forced to watch as everything slips through his fingers. Chaos without logic. The most disturbing part of Knock Knock is that it doesn't follow traditional horror logic. These women don't have a backstory that makes it all make sense. There's no trauma reveal to justify it. They're chaos, pure and simple. That's what makes them terrifying. There's no way to reason with them because they're not reasonable. They post the footage. They wreck his art. They leave his house a war zone. And just before they go, they write on his family photo, "Daddy's little girls." It's not just about ruining Evan. It's about making sure everyone sees it. That's the final horror, the permanence. It's not just over. It's viral. What was the real lesson? Did Evan deserve it? That's what the film keeps asking without ever answering. He cheated, yes, but does that justify psychological torture, career destruction, emotional ruin? Or is this just another example of how power can corrupt anyone, especially when disguised as morality? A cautionary tale for the digital age, Knock Knock isn't just a story about infidelity. It's a story about how fragile life is when everything can be captured, shared, exposed. In a world of social media and cancel culture, one mistake can become your whole identity. Genesis and Bale didn't just seduce Evan, they erased the man he was, and what's left is just the wreckage. In the end, Evan is buried up to his neck in the backyard, helpless, broken, surrounded by the laughter of two strangers who walked in during a storm. The door was open, and now everything's changed. Knock Knock is disturbing, not just because of what happens, but because of what it makes us ask ourselves. How easily could we fall into a trap? How fragile is morality when temptation knocks? And in a world where secrets can be recorded and posted in seconds, what's more dangerous, the act itself, or who's watching?